Hello everybody, this is Kai again. I am here to make another video, and today I'm going to go over a few things to consider about falconry. If you're interested in maybe getting into it, or before you get started, these are some things to consider that I wish I would have thought about a little more thoroughly, probably. Although, you know, I had like 4 years to consider all of it, so I kind of knew what I was getting into, I guess. But a lot of people, they don't consider these things before they even like start asking about falconry and try to get a sponsor. Okay, so the first thing that I have on my list is, do I have the space? And the reason I bring this up is it's good to remember where you're living. Am I living in a house? Am I living in an apartment? Because apartments, you have to have a mew that passes inspection. So you're very limited on the birds you can have, and if your apartment complex is going to allow you to have that animal. And if you live in a house, are you renting? Do you own it? Do you have the space in your yard to build a mew for a larger bird? So if you have space for that larger bird, are you going to have the time to build that? Basically that. You also have to think about huntable locations near you. If you're in a really deep city, where's all your fields gonna be? You gotta scout out places to hunt when you have your bird, and think about, what kind of bird do I want, and do I have suitable locations to hunt with that bird? Suitable game, things like that. Do I have an area to train my bird in my yard or in my house? You also have to think about that. Obviously in an apartment, you're going to be extremely limited on what bird you can have and if your apartment will even allow it. Most will, because they'll just consider it like a pet bird. So a lot of people in apartments will have like kestrels or merlins or, you know, micro falconry birds, because they can get away with that. Obviously, a larger bird like a red tail is not going to be suitable in an apartment ever. Like, please do not do that. In my opinion, that's a really bad idea. There's nowhere to train that bird, so you might get complaints too. So there's that. So my next point that you should consider is, do I have the time? You need to ask yourself that. What does my work schedule look like? Am I working a 9 to 5 with weekends off, or am I working random hours that are ever changing? You're going to want a schedule that stays relatively the same and allows you enough free time to train your bird daily. You can't be working like long shifts and then not have time for your bird. You're not going to have a successful bird that way. Work schedule conflicts like that are going to cause you problems, and you probably shouldn't get into falconry if you're working really long hours and not having time for your bird. Your free time available, that goes along with your work schedule. Do you have the free time to be training and hunting daily? Hunting, some birds you can get away with doing that, like just on weekends, be a weekend warrior. But again, your bird is not going to be as successful as somebody that is hunting that bird every other day or taking it out and flying it daily, working with it daily, things like that. When are you home? So you have to have time to feed your bird. So somebody who's not home very often, or is home on varying hours and not really consistently, probably don't get a micro bird, because they have to be fed twice a day, same exact time every day, because they can easily not be fed correctly and they can get sauerkraut. If you feed them at varying times of the day, they'll get sauerkraut and they'll get sick and they'll die if you don't feed them consistently. They lose weight really, really easy. So birds, if you're not going to be home consistently, usually you want to get a larger bird. So like red tails and Harris hawks are a lot more flexible on that, but generally try to feed your bird within like a couple hours window. That's what I found was really helpful. Being consistent on the feeding is important to having a good hunting bird and knowing when it's going to be at weight. Of course, there's going to be times where you might not feed that bird right on time. That's okay. It happens. And the other thing you want to consider with do I have the time question is, do I want to have vacations or not in the future? With falconry, it becomes more of a lifestyle. Vacations are a joke. You will not get them. That's not a thing. I'm sorry. Because typically there's nobody around you that can care for that bird unless they're trained on it. I have not had a vacation since I really started, unless I released my bird and then took a vacation. I have not had any vacations for fun during the falconry season ever. So that means no Thanksgiving, no Christmas, no summer trips because I'm working with birds, nothing. So I was the only one who knew how to deal with them in my household, safely at least, because I had red-tailed hawks and I've had kestrels. The kestrels are hard because they're so small, and the person working with them, the bird has to trust them and know actually how to weigh the bird and do all that. And I don't really trust people with micros as much because they're easy to kill. And with the red tail, I didn't trust my family with them because I was concerned. The bird was, I'd worked with it more, so I was more concerned that the bird would foot somebody and then I would be responsible for that. And obviously I don't want somebody that doesn't know birds, because the rest of my family doesn't know anything about falconry. They know absolutely nothing about raptor handling. And I didn't want them handling this wild bird. These are all wild caught. I didn't want them handling this wild bird and then getting hurt or having a situation where they don't know what to do, or some accident happening where the bird grabs them, they decide to pull away because they think that's what's going to fix it. When don't do that. If the bird grabs you, do not move your hand for any reason, because as soon as you twitch your hand, they will grab harder. I learned that the very hard way. I've been grabbed by so many birds, mostly Harris hawks that are very salty. So don't do that. So no vacations because of that. Or if you do have vacations, you have to have somebody to watch your bird. So that's another thing to consider. Is anyone that lives near me a falconer that can potentially babysit my bird? And will they do it when you need to? But pretty much consider vacations off of the roster for possibilities when you're in falconry. Most falconers don't take vacations. Gonna be real. If you ask them, when did you take your last vacation? They're gonna say 5 years ago. No, I'm kidding. Alright, so on that note, we're going to go to the next one, and that is, do I have the income to support this hobby? Falconry does not pay you much. Anything. It pays you exactly zero unless you're in abatement, but that's, again, you have to have experience to do that, which most of you going into it do not. So don't even consider that right now. Do I have the income? So where does your money come from? How old are you? If you're younger, where are you going to get this money? Are your parents going to want to fork out $4,000 for bird-related things? Where does your money come from? Are you working a job? Are you paying for school? If you're in school, how are you going to pay for school and the cost of falconry? Can you afford the monthly feeding costs of ordering food from whatever wholesaler you get your mice and quail from, or rats or whatever? Are you breeding your own meat? How are you going to afford that? How are you going to afford things during the non-hunting seasons? Stuff like that. And are you ready to commit to the cost of the sport? I think my Mew cost around $3,000 to just build. Of course, we did wood, and we did it all at home, all ourselves. So that's, if you're building it yourself, can you build it yourself? Do you know how to build something yourself, or are you going to have to ask somebody to help you and pay them? yeah, we put down around $3,000 to pay for all the materials. That's just material. That's not even the work it took. It took us a couple months to build our mew. It was an 8x8 shed type mew. And that's generally the smaller end for red-tailed hawks and similar sized birds. And that's one for one bird. And that's just the mew cost. Again, your monthly feeding costs, you're going to have to order meat for like, I ordered mine so that it would last 3 months at a time, which was like maybe $300 for 3 month supply-ish. It really depended on the bird. My red-tailed hawks are going to eat more, so I have to order a lot more. $300 to $400 there. Probably $300 is about average for a 3 month supply, I think, is what I got it. Again, you're going to be paying very much depending on where you are, what shipping costs, things like that. Do you have money in case a vet thing comes up? Your bird gets sick, let's say. You can't go to a regular vet. You have to go to an exotic vet for that, or a vet that specializes in birds. So here in Washington, a lot of people go to Pullman because they're the only ones that know anything about hawks and can accurately diagnose them or treat them. I had a horror story with a hawk that got ill. Billy was her name. I think there's like a couple of videos on here. Billy, I took her to a vet that did like small animals and birds. They misdosed her and she died. Yeah. So again, you gotta really be careful where you go, otherwise you end up with dead birds. Although I think she had some other underlying issue, but they didn't dose her correctly anyway. Nothing you can do at that point. So, yeah, you gotta have money to pay for a lot of things, and that's very, very important. You also have to consider your age as well. That's kind of a number 4 on the list, is where am I in my life path? If I am younger than, let's say you're like 12 to 13 on this end here, that's on the younger side. So, hey, if I'm going to start this now, do you really want to start that now? Or do you want to wait till you're done and like out of school and out of college to start it like at age 22 or 21 when you have more time? If you're in school, it's a lot more difficult to do falconry because obviously you're doing it in between your school schedule, weekends, and it's kind of wibbly wobbly. So just a few things to consider. Hopefully this helps somebody. If you have more questions, you can comment in the comment section, or yeah, something like that. Alright, y'all. Hopefully that helps. If there's anything that I missed, please add it. But these are like the basic things to consider. This isn't like a comprehensive list or anything like that, but that's just the main things I think are super important to consider before you even think about getting into falconry. Hope this helps. Have a good day. I'm gonna upload this now. Bye bye.